Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to Real Estate Investing. In today's episode, you'll learn about 10 tips for buying your first rental property. My name is Andrew Finney. Please consider me your real estate geek. I am always here to help. Feel free to drop me a line to say hi, or if you need help finding a top agent where you live, my contact info is below. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get into the 10 tips for buying your first rental property. Let's look at the first tip. Now, it's important to know if that property is right for you. So what does it mean in knowing if the property is right for you? A lot of people sometimes say, hey, Andrew, I'd like to invest in real estate. I'm looking for a fixer-upper. I'm looking for a property I can get for cheap. The only trade-off to that they're not really considering is exactly how handy are they around a toolbox and how much is it really going to cost to bring that home up to a rentable or sellable condition if they want to flip it. So knowing your way around and knowing your plans around what you intend to do to renovate a property and being honest with yourself, do you know somebody that's really handy and they're going to do work on the cheap, or are you planning on doing it yourself? But be realistic, because if you're looking at selling that property, you're going to have a home inspector come in there and take a look, and they may pick it apart if it wasn't done correctly or to code. So be honest with yourself whenever you need to hire a professional contractor to come in and get stuff done, or if you can do it yourself. So knowing if it's right for you is really going to be at your comfort level, but a lot of people get themselves hurt by not planning out the type of property that they want to get to begin with. So find an easier property to get up front, and we'll talk about that in a few points. So number 2 is paying your debt first. So what does that mean? Sometimes we get into real estate investing at all levels of life, and all of us these days are going back to school or going to school in the form of going to university, getting a college degree at different ages. And you want to make sure that your student loan debts are in check. You want to make sure that your credit card debts are in check. You want to make sure that your current mortgage on your home is in check, and along with your car notes. Paying off your debt it can go a long ways to making sure that you have free capital to maintain that property. You're also going to need to be able to plan and prepare for the fact that maybe you're not going to have that property rented out a full 12 months every year, especially in the beginning. You might be getting that property into a rentable condition depending on the type of property you chose to buy and that was right for you. So you're going to have carrying cost on that property and maintenance cost on that property that you need to plan for. So paying down some of your debts first is going to be, and you should absolutely avoid the debt if at all possible when it comes down to different things. Again, student loans, unpaid medical bills, having children, different things along those lines. You need to be ready and prepared before you get into real estate investing. The third thing to consider is getting your down payment together. Now, what does that mean? This isn't going to be like the primary home that you bought and maybe you used an FHA loan and you did a 3.5% down FHA loan, or maybe you went conventional and you did a 3% or 5% down loan. Nope. This is no longer that kind of ball game. When you go in the real estate investing world, you need to be planning on 20% to 25% as a down payment on that property. And the reason being is because lenders don't carry any private mortgage insurance on those properties. And since the minimum threshold to not have a private mortgage insurance is 20% equity in the property, that's what you're going to be looking at. So you need to get that down payment together. So if you're looking for a couple $100,000 property and you need to plan on having 20% to 25%, erring on the side of safety, let's say 25% as a down payment, that means that you need to have $50K cash in hand, in pocket, in your account, ready to go as a down payment for your new rental property. If you don't have it, save up for it and get ready for it, or look at maybe doing some joint investing and setting up an LLC with some friends and stuff, but make sure you use an attorney. That's a whole different topic altogether. Use an attorney to identify the partnerships and liabilities of each partner in that relationship. So number 4 is to be cautious of high interest rates. And again, it goes back to, this is not a primary residence. This is a investment property. So investment property is going to have slightly higher interest rates than you would see in a primary property, and you need to be planning for that. So you need to get with a great local loan officer, ask them about what kind of investment loan tools that they have. A lot of lenders may have, I know the 2 lenders that I work with here in Las Vegas, they actually have investment loan tools that are pretty darn cool. I mean, you can essentially get 20 loans, up to 20 loans underneath their investment loan products by keeping a minimum 20% equity stake and a loan to value ratio on each property. So to learn more about that, you might want to find a trusted real estate advisor in your area that understands the real estate investing thought process. And if you need help finding one that's like that, then let me know. My contact information is shown in the description below. Happy to introduce you to an agent that can help you out. So the 5th thing is calculating your margins. Now, that seems kind of like it's common sense, yet too often people aren't calculating their margins, or they don't know what margin they should be calculating. A lot of Wall Street firms, big banks, stuff like that, investing into distressed property are looking for somewhere between a 5% and 7% return on investment, but they also have staff to pay. So as an individual investor, you should ideally be looking for a margin of 10%. So you want a 10% margin or greater, and you need to be estimating your maintenance cost of the property at 1% of the annual property value at a minimum. The same kind of tips that I give in the home ownership advice series that I make every Friday, whenever we talk about maintenance costs, it's always a minimum of 1% of the home's value that you want to set aside every year for your maintenance. It applies and is still true for you as an investor. You want to have that ready, because some of your other costs as an investor could include your homeowner's insurance, your possible HOA fees if you buy an HOA community, the property tax, monthly expenses such as pest control, landscaping, and anything else that you may be carrying as a landlord. Be ready for it. So tip number 6 goes back to the first point actually, and staying away from fixer-uppers. If this is your first rental property, let's be honest here. If it's your first rental property, you're thinking, you're gun-ho, you watch some videos, maybe you listen to some of those smoke and mirror classes out there on the radio, or you saw them in person, or went to a seminar, and I'm sorry, it is what it is. They're smoke and mirror. When they talk about getting to a house with no cash out of your pocket, bullcrap. It's just bullcrap. There's going to be cash out of your pocket. First of all, you're paying those people to give you the information on how to do it without any cash in pocket. And they're always saying, go after the fixer-upper, go after fixer-upper, go after fixer-upper. Look, there's a reason why most would-be real estate investors and most would-be landlords fail, and most flippers fail. And that's because they don't consider the first 5 points in this video, this point, and the next 4 points to come whenever they're getting into investing in rental real estate. And you need to be ready for it, because if you don't, it's just not going to work for you. Your first rental property absolutely should not be, and I say it again, should not be a fixer-upper, because it may look like a bargain to you on the surface, and you're like, oh, I can fix the drywall, oh, I can fix this, I can fix that. But then you get a home inspector in there, and you realize maybe the plumbing's out of whack, and maybe you need new electrical, you need new plumbing, maybe you need, you have some issues with the foundation, you need a new roof. You're going to start killing any profit margin that you would have otherwise got. Now, a good idea is to actually look and plan on getting a home that's maybe a little bit under market value that you can rent out at a reasonable rate and make sure that it fits in with your operating expenses, which brings us up into point 7, which is actually calculating your operating expenses. So overall, your operating expenses on a new property are probably going to be anywhere between the range of like 35 and 80% of your monthly income, or of your monthly gross operating income, let's call it. So to give you an example of this is if you have charging $1,500 a month in rent, and it costs you about $600 to maintain that property, then you're at a 40% ratio. And then for an even easier calculation, just consider a 50% rule. Give yourself a 50% rule. If you're going to charge like $3K on a property, then it's going to cost you like $1,500 a month to maintain that property in total expenses. If you plan it out like that in your gross operating income, then you're going to be on the right step. And when we make other videos talking about cap rates and talking about operating expenses and talking about looking at return on investment and stuff, this is going to make a lot more sense to you. As I mentioned in the very first real estate investing video, look, all of these videos are going to build on top of each other. If you're following along in this series, then you're going to be very well prepared at not only the different types of real estate investments that are available to you, but also as we get more and more concrete into the actual hard physical properties, rental properties, flip properties, and stuff like that, of things that you should be looking out for and things that you should know, so that you're not one of those statistics that actually lost money instead of made money in this process. So that brings us full circle back around to tip 8, which is determine how much return on investment you're realistically looking for, or for everything that you put into it. For every dollar invest, what is the return on the dollar? And know if real estate investing is right for you and being a landlord is right for you. You need to be honest with yourself about the market on your cash-on-cash return in forms of the stock market, bonds, what's paying what's averaging what, and knowing what's going to work for you. Now, as part of the diversification of your portfolio, of course, maybe you have your real estate as a part of that portfolio to diversify and hedge against possible issues with the stock market and bonds and stuff like that, which is absolutely extremely intelligent and extremely smart to do. So maybe you want to be looking at a golden rule is if you can get like at least 6% return on year over year on your money, then you're doing really darn good in real estate investing and being a landlord. Now, the 9th point that you want to look at is get a low-cost home. Before you go all in and you start sinking everything that you got into this investment property, like, no, I don't like these lower level homes. I don't like these homes at the $150,000 mark. They're crap, and I don't like them. Well, look, if this is your first rental property, get your feet wet. And don't put so much money on the line that it's going to tank you and possibly take down your primary residence in the process because you over leveraged yourself, which goes back to one of the earlier points and point number 2 about paying off your debts and the reason why that's smart. Now comes full circle for you to better understand in this 9th tip here. If you start off at a lower level, it's going to cost you less because remember, you got that 20% down payment to plan for. Again, I highly encourage you to plan on a 25% and go ahead and throw an extra 3% in there for your buyer closing costs, bring you to a full 23 to 28% margin that you should be looking at as far as the cost of getting into the home before any single renovation is done. So if you do that with a $150,000 property, great. Make sure that you're looking at all of it together, and if you start off small, you can always build up later. But if you start off too big and you go under, you may never be able to regain your footing and get back into real estate investing, as opposed to starting small and growing over time. And what else that's going to do for you is it's going to add to your experience as a real estate investor and landlord and rental property owner, to know what to look for next time, to stay away from certain mistakes. That way you can prepare yourself, and if you have family and stuff, prepare them for success as well. Now, the 10th thing is all about finding the right location. And everybody says real estate is location, 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 location. It really is. And when it comes into rental property in specific, you want to be looking for an area that's going to provide you with a little bit lower property taxes, a decent school district. The better the school district, the better. But then again, when we're getting into real estate investing, we're talking about $150,000 homes and stuff. Depending on where you live in the country, that might be your average sales price, or that may be very low for where you live. So it just depends on where you live. So a decent school district at a minimum. Go to greatschools.org, type in an address, check out the ratings that greatschools.org is talking about, and see what happens. Now, the other thing that you want to be looking at is ideally a neighborhood with low crime stats. And there's a lot of different links. If you're here in Vegas and you're looking at investing, I can send it to you. Just send me an email, drop me a comment in the comment section below, and I'll send it out for you. Now, working with a trusted real estate advisor, they probably know of some other neighborhood crime links that are tied into your local police department that could better assist you in determining what crime looks like in reality over there, and knowing if that's going to be within your comfort level or not. Only you can make that decision. But in addition to you is a renter. A renter's going to have to make the decision to why they should rent your property opposed to someone else's property. So take that into consideration when you're looking for your property. The other thing that you want to be thinking about is, are you in an area of job growth or job depreciation? How's the job market look? Are there amenities like parks, malls, restaurant, movie theaters, all those kind of good things to make sure that they're in close proximity to those things? And if they are, you're going to be able to get a pretty good rent probably on that. Those are 10 tips for buying your first rental property to consider. Now, I'm going to leave you with a few final thoughts, and I'm going to ask for you to share your thoughts in the comment section below. So, final thoughts that I have on this is that, look, if it was so easy to make $1 gazillion as a landlord, everybody would be doing it. If it's so easy to make $1 gazillion being a flipper, everyone would be doing with it. Since it's not, and since people aren't doing that, it's because there's a certain risk threshold, and you need to make sure whatever your risk threshold is, you need to do your own risk assessment with your own comfort level, and never bite off more than you can chew. Never extend yourself past a point where you cannot take care of your primary responsibilities, with being yourself, being your family, being your house, being whatever your responsibilities are. The money that you use to get into real estate investing should be your own money, ideally, and it should also be something that you can grow with over time. This isn't a race, but if it were, we would take slow and steady over going at a full sprint out of the gate to begin with, only to trip up later on and maybe break a leg and not get back up. If you start off slow and you start off growing over time, you're going to be a lot better for it. And in a few years' time, you'll be like, you know what, I'm glad that I took that approach, Andrew. And you'll be back on this channel, leaving your comments and your experience and telling us how wonderfully it worked out for you. Now, it's your turn. Tell me what you're thinking about this video in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us the area that you're in. Tell us what kind of property you're looking at, whether it's multifamily, single family, condominium, townhome. Tell us what your thoughts are. Tell us any tips that you have for buying first rental property, so that we can continue to learn and grow as a community. I'm going to put my contact information up right now, so that if you want to drop me a line just to say hi, or if you need help finding a great agent where you live, you can let me know your situation, your story, and I can help you find that agent. If you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, please subscribe to this channel. Number 2, please like this video. Number 3, please share this video around with someone you know it's going to be the help. Thank you for watching today, and between now and next time, I'm wishing you and yours a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. See you soon.